Before the Cherokee were forced from their homeland in 1838, their elders spoke of places inside the Great Smoky Mountains that had been sealed, locations marked with ceremonies and guarded by beings the Cherokee called the Yunwi Tsunsdi, the little people who lived in rock chambers deep within the ridgelines. When government survey teams entered those mountains decades later, multiple crews reported finding carved underground chambers in several locations and filed those reports with the Department of the Interior. When the Great Smoky Mountains National Park was established in 1934, those specific survey records never appeared in the public archive. Today, entry into every cave and mine shaft in the park is prohibited by federal order. The Cherokee say those places were sealed deliberately, and that what remains inside them was never meant for outside eyes. The Cherokee name for those mountains is Shakinaj, which translates to place of blue smoke, and their people occupied that land for at least 11,000 years before a single European set foot on North American soil. Archaeological evidence at their most sacred site, the Kituwa Mound along the Tuckasegee River, dates human habitation back nearly 10,000 years. Kituwa functioned as the mother town of the entire Cherokee civilization, a mound 170 feet in diameter that once stood 15 to 20 feet tall and held a council house where sacred fire burned without interruption. 7 mother towns radiated outward from Kituwa across western North Carolina, eastern Tennessee, and northern Georgia, each connected by trade routes and governed by a matrilineal clan system that had functioned for centuries before contact. A 1997 archaeological survey of the Kituwa site uncovered thousands of artifacts, a 65-acre village footprint, and at least 15 confirmed burials, with estimates suggesting as many as 1,000 more beneath the surface. None of this knowledge came from outsiders. Cherokee oral tradition preserved every detail, generation after generation, through a system of stories and sacred formulas that ethnographer James Mooney would later describe as the revelation of a living faith. That faith extended deep into the mountains themselves, to places that most of the world has never been told about. Among the beings the Cherokee described as inhabiting their mountain homeland, 2 stand apart from the rest. The Yunwi Tsunsdi, translated as little people, stood roughly 2 feet tall with hair so long it nearly touched the ground, and they lived in rock caves along the sides of mountains, sometimes in chambers with multiple rooms and swept floors. Mooney documented these accounts firsthand during his fieldwork in the late 1880s, spending years with the Eastern Cherokee and recording hundreds of their oral traditions for the Smithsonian Institution's Bureau of American Ethnology. What he found surprised him. Far from scattered fragments of a dying belief system, the Cherokee spiritual framework operated as a coherent, living tradition with over 600 prayers, formulas, and songs governing everything from medicine to warfare. The Yunwi Tsunsdi belonged to a larger family of spirit beings called the Nunehi, or the people who live anywhere, and Cherokee folklore placed their underground townhouses throughout the southern Appalachian Mountains, particularly on high peaks where timber never grew. 3 clans of little people existed within this tradition: the Rock People, the Laurel People, and the Dogwood People, each with distinct temperaments and territories. Hunters heard their drums echoing through the hollows, and that's the detail that kept recurring in account after account, the drumming that moved when you tried to follow it, shifting location as though the mountains themselves were redirecting your steps. Cherokee elders warned their children never to disturb the places where the little people lived, because the consequences ranged from losing your way in the forest to losing your mind entirely. What happened next belongs to one of the most detailed oral traditions in Cherokee mythology, and it connects directly to the forced removal of 1838. According to the account Mooney recorded, the Nunehi appeared in a Cherokee village and delivered a warning. A catastrophe worse than anything the Cherokee had ever experienced was coming, and the people needed to prepare to leave within 7 days. On the 7th day, the Nunehi returned and led the Cherokee deep into the mountains, to a place where a large stone sat against the face of a ridge. As the Cherokee watched, the stone rolled away from the mountainside, revealing an entrance into the earth. Inside, they found the most beautiful place they had ever seen. Many families rushed through the opening without looking back, choosing to live with the Nunehai rather than face what was coming. Others refused. Those who stayed outside the mountain were the ones who endured the trail of tears. And here's the part that carries the weight of the entire tradition. Cherokee, who were forced west to Oklahoma later, described one of their deepest regrets as leaving behind forever their relatives who had gone to live with the Nunehai inside the mountains. That stone, according to the tradition, sealed shut behind those who entered. The Cherokee did not describe this as metaphor. They described it as geography. On May 10, 1838, General Winfield Scott issued his proclamation. Federal troops and state militia began rounding up approximately 15,500 Cherokee from their homes across North Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, and Alabama, driving them into 31 stockade camps before forcing them on a 1,200-mile march to Indian Territory in what is now Oklahoma. Cherokee authorities estimate that 3,500 men, women, and children died on that journey from disease, exposure, and starvation. Entire families perished in the crossing of the frozen Ohio River during the winter of 1838. Ralph Waldo Emerson himself wrote a letter to President Van Buren calling the removal a vast outrage. Not everyone left. Roughly 800 Cherokee evaded capture by hiding in the remote mountain valleys and caves of the Smokies, surviving on tree sap and roots in conditions so brutal that nearly all of the children in their group died, with only 2 surviving out of a population of nearly 100. A 60-year-old farmer named Solly and his family hid in a rock shelter beneath what is now called Kuwohi, the peak formerly known as Clingman's Dome, and his eventual execution by Cherokee firing squad, offered as a sacrifice to satisfy the military's demand for blood, secured the right of that surviving group to remain in North Carolina. Their descendants became the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, and the Qualla boundary they inhabit today, 57,000 acres purchased on their behalf by William Holland Thomas in the 1840s, sits directly at the entrance to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. What sits inside those mountains remains a question that the federal government has never directly addressed. The National Park Service's own website states that entry into caves or mine shafts in the park is prohibited, citing white nose syndrome and bats as the reason. But the restriction covers every underground space across all 522,000 acres without exception, and the Federal Cave Resources Protection Act of 1988 provides additional legal authority to close any cave for any reason the government deems sufficient. Meanwhile, the Eastern Band has spent the last 3 decades quietly reclaiming the sacred sites that surround those mountains. They purchased the Kituwa Mound and its 309 acres in 1996, the first major land acquisition since the removal, and a subsequent archaeological survey confirmed thousands of years of continuous habitation. Nikwasi Mound in Franklin, North Carolina, built more than 1,000 years ago, the very site where Cherokee tradition says the Nunehai once emerged from the earth to fight alongside the Cherokee in battle, returned to tribal control in 2019. Kituwa itself became sovereign Cherokee territory in 2021, when Principal Chief Richard Sneed signed the trust agreement and declared that the land would never again be taken from his people. None of these purchases have included the mountains directly. The caves remain under federal jurisdiction, closed to entry, their contents unacknowledged by any official record the public can access, and the Cherokee tradition holds steady. Somewhere in those ridgelines, behind stone that was rolled shut before the soldiers came, the Nunehai are still there. The drumming still moves when you try to follow it. The mountains still hold what they were asked to hold.